Hi, I'm Felix Khuner, the musical director of West Edge Opera, and I'm really excited to be doing Lulu and to be performing it in this particular space, because this space speaks of grandeur and decrepitude. The piece, Lulu, was written after the First World War. Really, writing an opera like this was partly inspired by the grandeur of the old society, which had been ripped apart by the First World War, and now it was decayed, and there were only remnants left. Remnants not only of the old cultural buildings, but of the old morality, of the old principles by which people were living. There are lots of question marks in the piece, and very much an investigation of the detritus and the underbelly of each person, our sexuality. This doesn't look like a very sexy place, but it's certainly a place where you could deal with prostitution, where you could deal with incest, where you could deal with political bigwigs who don't want to acknowledge their primal urges. You could deal, in a way, with that whole epic proportion of old culture which we can now criticize. The piece is based on poetry or the plays by Frank Wedekind, and it was banned. It could not be performed in Germany. I'm talking about the plays on which Lulu was based, the Lulu plays of Frank Wedekind. Frank Wedekind, by the way, was born in the Bay Area. If he wasn't born here, he was conceived here. I'm not sure which it is. His parents were touring San Francisco, and he was named after he was named after Benjamin Franklin, I'm not sure. So when we put the orchestra, chamber orchestra here, because this place is not really on the operatic grand scale of an opera house, but it's perfect for an opera which is both grand in thought and small in the sense that it focuses on individuals' lives and the nitty-gritty of their subconscious drives and their passions for each other in close relationships. I'm looking forward to having an orchestra fill this place with sound, and the singers as well, and have a mixture of those tendencies. This place, in a way, reminds one of the grandeur of old Vienna. My father used to talk about old Vienna because he grew up in old Vienna. He was born in 1906, and he hated the place. He thought the people were just terrible. He got out by performing new contemporary music, which was always critical of the old order. It was really the avant-garde. And he managed to escape because the quartet in which he was playing, the Polish quartet, championed a particular new work of the 1920s, namely the lyric suite of Alban Berg. This piece was written just before Berg composed the opera Lulu. He was already thinking about what his opera was going to be and almost determining it was going to be Lulu. And the piece was performed in a summer festival. And all the critics came to that festival. They were performing works of Brecht and Weill, in which my father actually played, the first Mahagoni. And on that weekend, my father's career was made because the quartet was now in the limelight. They'd premiered a piece which was loved by everybody in the festival. It was called back, encored, and the quartet now had bookings all over Europe for the next 10 years because of this one weekend, this one piece, because of Alban Berg. And that piece has the same impulse behind it as the opera Lulu does. It's an investigation of love, especially illicit love. Love at the edge, you might say, which is great for West Edge Opera to do. It's a story of a love affair. And this, by the same token, Berg wrote the opera Lulu precisely because, among all the choices he had, that opera spoke to his need to talk about underground love. Of course, he didn't announce he was having a love affair, either in the string quartet or in the opera Lulu, but, for example, he wove the initials of himself and of his lover into the material of the piece. And the names of the notes, Alban Berg and his lover Hannah Fuchs, which was all secret at the time, that was his lover, they were just friends of the family, but HF and AB, in German that's B natural F and AB flat, those are the key notes in the lyric suite and also in Lulu. So in some way I feel like this is all a family I shouldn't say a family affair. It's all related to my family history. I've always loved the work of Lulu, and that combined with this environment speaks really closely to me of the old Viennese history that's in my family. When my father was playing in his string quartet, and they premiered the second quartet of Alban Berg to great acclaim, managed to get bookings all throughout Europe, that meant that although he was a Jew in Vienna, where there was a lot of anti-Semitism in the 1920s and it was building up, when they came to the United States, he could get a green card, which he did right away. They came to the United States also on the strength of that piece. They played the premiere of the United States premiere of the Berg Lyric Suite, and on that same trip, he got his green card. And of course, a few years later, he was able to become a citizen. He was able to bring his family over after Hitler annexed Austria. So in spite of the fact that his whole Jewish family was threatened with death, art saved them. The music saved them. In a way, Alban Berg saved them. In a way, the impulses for this particular piece saved them and made possible my father to not only survive but have a family when he moved to California.
Great. Thank you.